Usually the modus operandi is to sell the course and then get rich and then tell people how I got rich.
Yeah, I think skepticism is not an option for us.
At the extreme spectrum is this law of attraction fluff where you just need to manifest things without taking any action.
Yeah,
All right. I'm not a big believer in that. I don't know if it works for you though.
not really.
Yeah, thankfully not.
So, hello everyone, welcome to the Pathik podcast. We have decided to start this series with a very special guest. This person is one of the youngest fund managers in the country right now. After his corporate stint for 17 years at one of India's largest funds, he decided that he's going to quit and he's going to start his own fund called Bristlecone Equity Fund. I'm very happy to have this conversation with him today and let's see where it goes. Hi Vihang.
Hi, Svanik.
Let's talk about our very first topic for this podcast series, which is the tragedy of self help. The kind of idea I had about self help 20 years back was a very innocent one. This is one of the few places with which I can see healthy growth or healthy development of myself. But I think as times have passed, not just self help itself, but the figures around it that were the most famous at their time have all undergone scrutiny, especially with the Epstein files. So, what do you think about the legacy that is being left behind?
The very first thing, Svanik, and thanks for having me at your podcast. The very first thing that I used to ask whenever somebody would patch me on with a self-help, coach or a guru, was to check his credibility. So if somebody is telling me, to join a course, let's say, for the lack of a better example, how to get rich, I would first see whether that guy has become rich without selling this course, right? Usually the modus operandi is to sell the course and then get rich and then tell people how I got rich, right? So my idea was to first check the credentials and then, walk the path.
Right.
Now you are at an age where you can check anybody's credentials very easily. 20 years ago, not so much. You could maintain a facade, right? And now that facade is coming out in many cases.
Correct.
So I would say the very first thing for me, and I guess anyone, would be to check the track record.
Yeah, I think skepticism is not an option for us. We have to, that is the first step whenever we are coming across all these gurus. Because even this interesting phenomenon of the self help internet guru has now come out, where you have the so called flag bearers of masculinity these days parading around. So I think dealing with skepticism is crucial for us.
And the one thing that I see a lot of people doing is confusing, information with change. If you read, if let's say for example, you want to stop procrastinating, right? That's a big one in the self-help world. You would see earlier the guy was, let's say, watching 5 hours of TV and not and shirking his work. Today he is reading 5 hours of articles on how to stop procrastinating and shirking his work. Right? Your mind is getting that dopamine, thinking that okay, I have understood the problem and I have understood how to solve it, but that doesn't mean the problem is solved.
Yeah. So, what were some of the figures in your past that, let's just say, broke that barrier of skepticism which you're talking about?
So, see, some of the topics, don't really require a huge deal of skepticism, right? If somebody is telling you things which are the obvious things to do, for example, kindness, right? I don't really need to go and see how kind this person is because he's saying the truth and, there is some value in it. But if somebody is asking me, to be ultra hyper productive, right? How to, work for a very short time and achieve great results, then I need to go back and see whether this guy has really done it. Or if somebody promises me to, if you read this book of 200 pages, or how do you make your first $1 million? Then I need to see, has this guy really done that? So rather than talk about people who have, who are the black sheep of the industry, let's just talk about some people who actually have done some good work.
Correct.
For example, I really hold, Charlie Munger in a high regard. He's not a self-help guru, but he's rich. Right? He's an investor. He was an investor, and who wrote about quite a few things about how to process mental models, about psychology. Now that has an immense value to me when a 90-year-old guy who is a billionaire is talking about how to create wealth, rather than some guy out of college, who's done a few Udemy courses and then teaching me how to create wealth.
Yeah, I think it's a matter, from what you have just said, it's a matter of making ourselves adjacent to certain masters. Because I think the one of the major barriers for us to be able to believe a self-help guru is, what have they pursued in their life first? Have they pursued mastery? Have they pursued excellence? Or have they pursued all these very superficial attributes which everyone else does? Right. And I think what you also mentioned, from the idea of, making self-help as a means of consuming more than, uh, applying to one's own life, I think it also is a matter of how are the ideas coming to us and how are we processing it. Like, are they borrowed, or are they personal? Are they ringing in? Are they resonant with what our values are? Which is what you said about Charlie Munger. But are there other names?
Yes, for sure. I think one of the guys who I personally like listening to is Naval Ravikant. He's been an angel investor, of early stage investor in many startups. If he tells me he had a Twitter thread about how to, become rich, that kind of blew up. Now, if such people talk about it, it has some value for me. Right. The other thing, the point that you touched about your own values, and this is where, I don't know where I read it, but that has had an impact on me, that you should choose self acceptance over self help. First you need to accept who you are, right? I have this favorite example that, the whole of India has been rubbing, fairness creams all their lives. Now India is a brown country. Why can't you accept that? Somebody has just sold you a dream that being fair is the way to be, and you are rubbing creams without getting fair, right? So the same thing is about self help, right? People are telling you about, do X, Y, Z, and then, ABC would happen. But why can't you accept it that for yourself, ABC is not your journey? It might be somebody else's journey, but it's not your journey. Right? You are born with certain unique psychological, physical attributes that you need to exploit. If you try to play somebody else's game, that guy is going to make money, right? Teaching you how to play that game, but you're not going to be able to play that game.
That game has worked for him in whatever way. And I think we also lack the context.
Yes.
Right? We lack the depth of the life that he has lived, how he has responded to certain situations. And that void remains, I feel. Even after consuming all of this content and looking at, let's just say, 8 principles of highly successful living or whatever, right? I kind of feel like even in these books there is knowledge about what should you do, but less about where does this principle come from.
True.
Right? So that each person is encouraged to see whether whatever it's coming out of, is it really in parallel to the life that you are living?
No, definitely. And who basically decided that this is how an ideal life should be lived? You know, one of the characters I get inspired by for all his character flaws is Winston Churchill.
Ah.
Yeah, he is the perfect archetype of a imperfect genius, right? Uh, Smoked cigars, had whiskey before breakfast, right? Weighed, I think, a few extra pounds, right? Was not a pleasant personality at all,
Yeah.
right?
He had some political things that are now on fire these days. But yeah, I think.
But let's not take away from him that that is the guy who stopped the march of Hitler.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Now, can you basically teach him that if you give up your whiskey, if you give up your cigars, then you know you will be able to stop Hitler? I don't think that works. Winston Churchill was who he was because he had the audacity to do what he did,
Right.
and the life that he lived.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So to just cut out the edges of all of us and to make us smooth, human beings, is neither advisable nor doable.
And I think that's the point. Like, for the sake of sanity, sanitization, or whatever, I think there's also this demand that you should come across as a very polished person, all in all, right? But then my only question to like this collective that expects us all to be polished in a certain, like in a certain way, shape, or form is, are we furniture at the end of the day?
They are trying to make you into one,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And this you would see, is a very very recent and an urban phenomena.
Ah.
You know, I one of the books that I have has inspired me lately is Identity by Francis Fukuyama. He said before the advent of urbanization, you didn't have the time to think, right, who you are and what do you want to become. You were basically part of a commune in a village, and you were either a potter because your father was a potter, you were either a farmer because your father was a farmer,
Right.
and you didn't try to be something else. You didn't try to be polished. You accepted your flaws, and you moved ahead, right? But you know, over the last 200 years, what has happened is because of urbanization, you have got the time and you've got the opportunity to think who you really are. And the self-help industry is a direct onslaught onto that change. Okay, you don't know who you are. Let me tell you who you are.
Yes.
And who you ought to be.
Right.
Right. So that is where this self-help goes from being a therapy to being toxic. Right.
I think we should also address, for the sake of like a wider holistic conversation, let's also address the other end of the spectrum. I think there is also a lot of, perhaps in the name of acceptance, perhaps not, but a rise in narcissistic attributes as well, where there's a fair share of people who feel like they don't require any change. I'm not talking about help or improvement, but change. So, how do we make sure that we address change? Let's just say directional change in the in an authentic sense. How do we parse it out with the idea of retaining elements of ourselves, retaining who we are?
No, very interesting question. What you're saying is how do we, bring about change without, having it to be toxic, right?
And without it being a borrowed compromise.
True. So one of the things that I feel, and I genuinely feel that self-help is a very, very personalized service. It cannot be mass marketed. If I need to, if Svanik needs to change, and I am the one who wants to bring about that change in him. I need to understand who Svanik is. I need to understand what's his potential. And then I need to identify those one or two areas which are holding him back right now and maybe smoothen it up a bit so that he can achieve his potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But what works for Svanik might not work for Arvind, right? Those are completely different raw materials and completely different destinies. What you're trying to do is you're trying to give both of them 8 ways to lead the most successful life.
Right.
That's just not going to work.
Correct.
So one of the things that I feel is to make it more personalized. Obviously, is going to take time and effort, and obviously is going to be more expensive than a mass market 200 rupees book.
Even an online course.
Yeah, nobody reads books these days.
Exactly. That's why I interjected.
So yeah, what are your thoughts about it?
According to me, there is also this cynical trend that I am personally experiencing as a person, like a 20 someone growing up in these times, is also the trend of post authenticity. There are a lot of people telling us that there is no such thing as an original idea anymore. It means that whether to believe in authenticity or not is now up to us. And B, if we believe in authenticity and posit the solution, as you said, of a personalized approach, how do we do that?
So I, for one, don't believe that we are not authentic enough. I believe that although we follow trends, but I think that we do have sparks of authenticity. It can never be that a whole generation is so banal that they don't create anything new, right? In fact, you can just argue that possibly we are one of the most creative generations because every few months there's something new that catches your attention.
Right.
Right? If that is not creativity, what is it? Right? And in that kind of a context, I think self-help also has become very has also evolved in a sense to feed in onto your authenticity. I feel that like movies these days or content these days does want to make you, some content, some movies want to make you use of your authentic self, right? So I would not be a believer that we are all just a dumbed down copycat generation of copycats.
Right, right. No, actually, that's lovely because I didn't think about movies and other kinds of medias. It's also a major, I think, happening occurrence around us for self-help, wherein it was restricted to books, and some could even call it textbooks or an in-person approach. But now media itself has expanded to such a range. Maybe let's just say only 1% of it might be something that will bring real authentic change in us, but that 1% far supersedes what we had gotten in the past. So certain avenues have opened up. Yeah.
No, definitely. I feel the entire value of self help is to, in fact, help you protect your authenticity and at the same time make use of certain behaviors which can accelerate your authenticity. The world actually needs you. The world doesn't need a perfect human being, right? Because there is nothing as such. The world basically wants to make use of your unique set of experiences to add value to itself. Now, where does self-help come in this is self-help does have value in my opinion, but it has a limited value in basically just accelerating that potential.
Correct.
Without self-help, maybe you could take 20 years, 30 years. With self-help, you could possibly accelerate it even more.
I think it's dangerous. Like you could go on the very extreme end with just a book in this day and age, or just an online course, but at the same time, the very same time, a new opening opens up wherein you could get insights you would never ever have gotten 50 years back, unless you were connected to the right people, to the right squares, right?
So one of the things I feel that the whole self-help industry and the users would benefit out of is to ask the question, what is my next action? Right? This can translate into a gravy train of just fluff, knowledge, information, without any action, and you're back into the same. You wasted 20 years just watching podcasts, reading books, right, without any change.
Yeah.
So the extreme spectrum is this law of attraction fluff, where you just need to manifest things without taking any action.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not a big believer in that. I don't know if it works for you though.
Not really.
Yeah, thankfully not.
Yeah.
I don't think I have seen anyone it works for. Right.
Right.
Just sit on a couch and just imagine and manifest things. Right. What it might help, and this has been proven with studies in Olympics, etc., is when you visualize your goal, and you take action toward achieving it. Achieving that goal is easier.
Right.
But the key part here is both visualization as well as the action.
Right.
What a lot of self-help gurus forget is the action part, because that is not an easy sell. Right? Visualizing, sitting on your couch and dreaming about it, is a great sell.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Right. No, in fact, I think the underlying belief matters. Like, is the underlying, which in Buddhism is called the bhav, right? More than the action itself, no more than what you are doing. Are you believing in someone else on the basis of the, which is the path, what the path of skepticism will help us in, right? Are we believing immediately the other person, or are we using that other person as a channel to question ourselves and come to a final destination where we believe in ourselves and the path that we are taking? Right. So I think it's that matter, that perspective change, that is going to uh, change the way self-help probably works as well. Because right now, see, as time is passing, all these arenas, I feel, are becoming industries. They are industrializing at a rapid rate, which means democratization as well. But it also means that there is a certain level of expediency when it comes to what can be sold. क्या बिकता है market में.
And it's not the problem of the self-help industry. Since humanity has existed, right, people are sold what they need. The basic problem is the need. Right? You need to look fair. That's why somebody is selling you a fairness cream.
Correct.
If you didn't feel the need to look fair, nobody would sell you a fairness cream.
Correct.
Right? You feel that you need to be a perfect human being. That's why somebody is selling you the dream of a perfect human being.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
So the sales part of it is not wrong, because there is a need, he will sell. Right. The need part of it, I think, might warrant a relook. So from my vantage point, I think self-help is evolving into another entertainment industry. Right? But people just don't accept it. It is just that it feels like a useful entertainment versus, let's say, earlier, for example, when we were I was in my college, I used to read comic books. Right? Now nobody reads comic books. They watch reels instead, which promise them to make them something into something else. But it's entertainment nevertheless. Yeah, I feel that if you use it like an entertainment, there's no problem. But if you feel that a particular person or a particular course is going to change your life, that's where the disappointment starts.
Yeah. And I think even like, I think we should consider the nuance of, like, responding to your points, I think we should consider the nuance of the consumption of time. Um, because things are flowing so rapidly and because our internet gurus are quite unlike our self-help gurus, like traditional self-help gurus, are having such quick downfalls. I think it is also a matter of giving it a certain kind of time. Like, you come across a certain message about self-help which in the moment you feel is really really strong, will help you. Can we give it certain amount of time, just let it pass for 3 months, a year, and see, put it to test, does this really work, or is the person behind what is being said really a person of great credibility? Because these days, in the matter of a year, credibility is falling and rising like nobody's business.
The problem is, Svanik, I don't think that it is that credibility is falling in this day and age.
Okay.
The problem, I think human beings were always human beings, and they were always imperfect, right? It is just that the world has too many cameras and microphones these days to expose people, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think even gurus 1,000 years ago would have had, what some might call questionable characters. It is just that we did not have evidence of it floating around, right? Because there were no cameras, there were no, you were not watched 24 by 7. Uh, I personally wouldn't have a problem with someone who's teaching me something good, but having a very messed up personal life. Because I'm not looking, if for example somebody is, I love to play golf, somebody is coaching me in golf, right? How does it matter if his personal life is effed up, right? Is messed up. He's not teaching me how to have a great relationship at home, right? He's teaching me golf. For me, the value of that human being is how well he teaches me what I want to learn, right? Now to put him on a pedestal and to think that because he's so good at golf, he also is good at everything else,
Yeah.
is also taking it to a slight extreme.
Correct. Correct. So finally, I think this is one of the things that I am thankful that the conversation has led us towards, the concept of anonymity. Say what you want about the scriptures of our past or the knowledge that was there of our past, because you mentioned spiritual gurus and like people from the past. There was to a large extent a level of anonymity. Let's take our Upanishads, right? Some of the wisest, most renowned, not renowned, I mean, that's ironic for me to say, but the monks that really reached the apex of knowledge in Hinduism, all of them got together and decided that here are a set of books that are going to be completely anonymous, because we don't want to associate an ego with the kind of knowledge that we are giving. Because the very idea of diving into the depths of knowledge and of knowing oneself, as Buddha says, we reach shunyata, emptiness, right? So once you reach emptiness, what's a name, right? What is a name to benefit out of it?
Exactly.
So I think that is a large void in the self-help space where there is no sense of anonymity anymore when we are giving out what we feel should be right. I would say, let's just take the case of Naval Ravikant. he maintains a sense of anonymity to the level that he does not share his private life with people, which I find very healthy. Probably a nice factor we should look at when we look at like such people. What do you think?
So the biggest difference between people like Naval Ravikant or the authors of Upanishads is that they don't want to sell you something. There is a difference between selling and sharing, right? When sharing becomes selling, you cannot be anonymous because the money has to go to somebody's account, right? And the guy who wrote Upanishads possibly died pretty poor, right? He was a wise guy, but they collectively they might not because they did not get much from it. In fact, they say that Lao Tzu is not a person, right? There is that as well, right?
Yes.
It's basically, in fact, people say Chanakya itself was not a person; it was a set of ideas.
Right.
Uh, that was the day and age when people wrote knowledge for posterity without expecting anything pecuniary. But today we are in a day in age when we are constantly trying to sell something.
Yes, there's an incentive sought out at each step of the way.
Exactly. And then, if you, to quote Charlie Munger, show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior, right? If your incentive is to sell me something, if your then you're obviously going to make me look inadequate because that's when you can fill in the adequacy with your content,
Right.
right?
Right.
But Upanishads are not telling you that.
I think a major point there is credibility because that is something that is being asked out by people. Ki, what is your credibility? It's the reason we are introducing ourselves at the beginning of this episode.
Exactly.
Right.
So, my only submission, to at the for this podcast is whenever you're facing a self-help guru, just try to understand what is he trying to sell you, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how much of my dollars are, converting their ownership
Right.
at the end of the conversation, and what am I getting from it?
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And I think it's the quality of what as well. Right. He might be the best sounding guy in the world, and we have come across those people, but he might be living a life that is completely opposite to that. Right. So I think it's that gauging of quality that matters a lot today.
Exactly. And in terms of things like trying to get rich, etc., I think it's a oxymoron itself, right? Because if I knew how to get rich, why would I teach it to you?
Correct.
I would get rich first and then offer it for free,
Yes.
right? Like Charlie Munger,
Yes.
right? I would not design a course around it and sell it to you for 1,000 rupees.
Correct. It is always an incomplete sentence. I think the sentence complete is always I got rich in these circumstances and in my life, right? That sentence is never completed. It's always shortened down to a blanket model passed down to people who also might get rich from it, but they will never get meaning out of it.
And one of the things that is happening or has happened post COVID is this, proliferation of these, stock market gurus, right? I mean, from my field, I can see there are so many people who are teaching you how to trade for a very, very meaningful sum of money.
Right.
Now, if I really understood how to trade the markets, I wouldn't need to sell it to you for 50,000 bucks, right? You start with whatever capital.
Then you are not sharing, you are trying to get that incentive out.
See, even if you start with, let's say, 50,000 rupees,
Yeah.
but if you can generate returns of, let's say, 50%, 100%, in 10 years, you're going to be so rich because of the power of compounding. If I were to able to do that, why would I put myself in the public and attract the scrutiny of regulators,
Yeah.
right? Put myself and my net worth at risk. The only reason I would do that is because I don't know how to get rich. I only know how to get rich by teaching you how to get rich. Right? So that's where the tragedy of self-help, marries the opulence of the stock market.
Maybe it culminates with the conversation, probably on a thematic level, would culminate with is self help a confession for a lot of these gurus, for a lot of these people who are trying to find leverage, trying to find their space on social media, trying to find a living also in so many cases. Nice. So, on that note, I guess we end this episode of the podcast. I think this quality that I just talked about, the quality level, I think that is something we can also explore in all other topics that we'll pursue in the future.
Sure.
So, it was lovely talking to you, man.
Lovely talking to you too, Svanik. Thank you.